It is not as simple as I'm about to say it, but it can be as effective as these 3 steps. Hello everyone, my name is Coach Show, your Lululemon ambassador, bringing you another video to be as fast and as explosive as possible. One thing that hinders us when we're training is injury. And most sprinters, most speed power athletes are going to get a hamstring injury that bothers them at some point in time during their training. I want to give you guys 3 keys, 3 things to look for when designing your training, when you're going through your programming, right? As an athlete, you're in a team program, you're in a team setup, and maybe coach doesn't get the eyes on you that you need, but I want to give you these 3 keys that will help you address potential issues or injuries that you've experienced regarding the hamstring. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe because I want to make you guys as fast as possible. Learning is something I love to do, and I love to share the knowledge that I've built with you guys. So let's do this thing together. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go. Number 1, one of the biggest issues leading to hamstring injuries in speed and power athletes is excessive ground contact time, meaning the time that your foot is on the ground. Sprinting is a power exercise where I need to exert as much force as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. When the ground contact time is excessively long, and to you, the untrained eye or the new coach, new athlete, whatever, you're not gonna see excessive ground contact times unless they're really obvious, right? Where we see people overstriding, the shin gets vertical, those kind of things, or we're really sitting really deep into our posture. Those things are very obvious and very easy to pick out. But sometimes the ground contact time can be milliseconds too long, causing a dragging action where the hamstring is just overly loaded, the pelvis is pulled out of position, and things start to go wrong. It's all incremental, right? It starts small and it builds to a bigger issue. So addressing or identifying if your ground contact times are excessive or too long is going to be the first step here. And you can always look at what the rules are of whatever is you're training for. But in this regards to sprinting, the rules are the foot needs to be underneath the hip. If the foot is in front of the hip, I create a braking action. My heel hits and I create this braking action of the quad, the glute, the hamstring. Then everything pulls through and I don't get off the ground fast, but also I start to create like maybe small imbalances. We don't ever want the foot in front of the hips because it creates a braking action. We don't want the foot behind the hips, although it might look like that on video where an athlete is contacting behind, the foot and the hip are moving at different speeds, or they should be moving at different speeds. Like the foot needs to be moving faster than the hips to keep accelerating. If the foot is moving excessively past the hip and the ground contact is insufficient, that's where we start to get this over rotation of the body and people start falling out of position. Think about someone like diving for the line, right? They start to lean, the foot isn't ever underneath the hip at that point. They start kind of making this cyclical action behind them. The foot being underneath the hip just gives us neutrality. It gives us a neutral position and allows us to just keep moving forward. All right, so we know that's the objective. I need to get my foot underneath my hip so I can get off the ground and keep my body as safe as possible. Even with the foot being underneath the hip, you still need to address an element of acceleration of the leg. It is primarily the job of your foot, especially from the knee to the ankle. So this lower part of your leg is primarily this part of your body that's responsible for getting your foot underneath. If the lower leg is not doing its job, the ground contact time will always be excessive. There's an element or something called negative foot speed by Dr. Ken Clark. If you look him up on Instagram, he posts a lot of great stuff. Essentially, negative foot speed talks about how quickly the foot can get underneath in relation to the hip speed. So if my hip is moving at this distance or this speed, let's say 5 miles per hour, I don't know, to accelerate my foot speed, my lower leg needs to move underneath the hip at least 5.1 miles per hour, meters a second, whatever the metric is. It has to always exceed the speed of the hip. That's how you're going to get this negative foot speed, and that's how you're going to be accelerating. When you're any slower than the velocity of the hip, that's when you're going to find your braking actions as you're going to be slowing down. And if you're obviously at the same speed, then you'll be maintaining, right? So as I said, number one, that ground contact time should be addressed. And you can do things other than getting the foot underneath to work this ground contact time. Fast feet drills, plyometric properties and characteristics. You can do a lot of things that will help you create shorter ground contact times, because if you can't get the foot on and off the ground and you can't keep up, right? You're running at these excessive speeds. Your ability to keep up with your body, your feet being able to keep up with the rest of your body is what's going to ultimately make you faster or not. I hope that makes sense. So anything that's teaching your body or teaching your foot to get on and off the ground is going to be very important that you train. Things that we've done recently. So as those of you that don't know, I jumped in college. I was a high, long, and triple jumper, triple jump mainly. And everything was plyometrics and sprinting and bounding, that kind of thing. So everything was about producing high force output in a very dynamic way. So one thing we've done recently that I'd like to share with you guys, we did running hurdle hops. So like you're running momentum into the hurdle hop. So the athlete has momentum behind them, something that they can carry. There's obviously enough space in between the hurdles that the athlete can jump over, but you're just prioritizing speed and speed maintenance, especially over the duration of the hurdles that you have in front of you. So again, ground contact time, just to review, ground contact time is related to the hip position and the foot position, foot being underneath the hip, and the ability to get the foot on and off the ground. Number two, the eccentric strength quality of the hamstring. I think all of us have done like a hamstring curl in a seated or laying position, prone position, even like Nordics, or we've all done specific hamstring exercises. But how often do we do these exercises thinking about the lengthening phase of the hamstring? The hamstring has to have enough strength in the eccentric phase of the movement so that the athlete can resist yielding. Resist yielding is a term I got from Dr. Mike Young, which is why, equipment like the K-box and the K-pulley, anything that's flywheel, eccentric overload, those kind of protocols are awesome for teaching the body there is load that I'm trying to absorb and then reproduce. Get out of there. The hamstring in sprinting creates so much eccentric tension that if it's not taught and trained in training and in the weight room and on the track, hamstring injuries may just be part of this athlete's journey, and we don't want that, right? We want to keep the athlete safe on the track and keep it moving. So Nordics are awesome, right? Nordics work the knee flexion and extension. Anything that works from the hip is something that should be addressed as well. Think about good mornings, any hinging action, RDLs, those kind of things. I'm a big proponent. We have K pulleys here and K boxes as well. So I'm a big proponent on flywheel curls because the eccentric phase is affected by the concentric. So the athlete can learn how to pull the leg in with some velocity and then reap the rewards of controlling and absorbing this eccentric phase, so that we're addressing both sides, right? Like I'm teaching them to benefit your hamstring on the eccentric side of things. I need you to think concentrically. Pull that leg in, big speed, big energy, and then the wheel will pull them through. And they have to do what? They have to engage. They really have to engage that hamstring just so they're not losing control. Because you can do the flywheel and feel like you could do sets of 12 to 15 to 20 and not really get much out of it unless the hamstring is where it's supposed to be, which is to be engaged the concentric force from the movement prior. The hamstring needs to absorb the eccentric force that the concentric action has developed prior. Quick story, and I've made videos about this as well, and I don't want to contradict myself. The theme of how I was coaching the acceleration early in the fall, maybe like November of this past year, was about creating stride length and pushing big and being powerful and that kind of thing. As much as I coach the athletes to get underneath the hip, like the first point, going. Sometimes, most times they don't. And that part is really a developmental piece of coaching, is getting the athlete to learn where the foot should be, where the shin should be, where the pelvis should be, where the upper body should be, and all those good things, right? So as I'm teaching them good skills and good habits, I'm also teaching them how to be powerful. And that power output is kind of standing their shin up, or I'm creating that braking action. So then the hamstring just isn't able to maintain the velocity or the impact of this extension. So one thing I've done, I've implemented into our hamstring protocol, is we've done reverse disc slides, right? So they're in a glute position on the ground, and then the heels go out. We've done iso holds where they're on the disc, the hips are off the ground, and they should be holding that position, getting the glutes up, and really depending on the heel to create tension. So the only two contact points are the shoulders and the heels, and they're like kind of doing like a reverse plank in this position. Those have been great for us. And then, as I said already, the K-pulley hamstring curls are a staple for me. Teaching the body how to be long and strong through momentum. I love the K-pulley for that. So I would definitely advocate for you guys. They're not paying me to say that, but so yes, though, that's my next point there. The last thing I have for you guys regarding the hamstring in speed, keeping you healthy, is actually on the other side of the coin. It's the antagonistic muscles. It's the quad. It's the hip flexor. We are not doing enough addressing of the mobility and the strength of the hip and the quad. We think about the hamstring being the issue. No, the hamstring is the check engine light. There's something else going on. I don't know if you guys have experienced injury, right? But the first time I experienced like real injury was it was a chronic thing, actually. My knees were taking a beating being a jumper, right? And so shout out to all the jumpers, high, long, triple jump. But the overuse, the pounding and the bounding and everything, I was feeling it in my knees, and I went to physical therapy. I won't forget this experience, but I'm expecting him to give me quad strengthening exercises. He put me on the ground. He gave me, those big Swiss balls and exercise balls. And he's showing me how to do hamstring curls on the Swiss ball and a bunch of hamstring exercises. And I just was confused. I'm like, why am I doing hamstring things? It's my knee. My knees are bothering me. I have tendonitis. I have whatever. He says, well, your quads are overworked, right? If I'm in the jumping position, there's knee bend, there's hip bend, and I'm extending through this particular pattern. You're doing this particular action, high jumping, long jumping, triple jumping. You're just jumping all the time. The patella tendon is so on fire, it's screaming at you, and it hates you right now. But you need to strengthen the other areas. And that always stuck with me because I didn't even understand it then, but it stuck with me. But now as a coach, it's really easy to see, hey, I have someone with a hamstring injury and they're so inflexible, getting over hurdles on the hurdle mobility drill. Or they can't, when we do a banded warm-up and put a band over the bridge of the foot, and they're not able to get the knee to parallel without the upper body flexing. That is a great starting point for developing strength and mobility in the antagonistic muscles. The hamstring is screaming at you because you're inflexible in the hip region. You're inflexible in the quad. You're not taking care of the lower abs, maybe the adductor, who knows? But where you think the pain is, the source of the pain is somewhere else, and oftentimes on the other side of that coin. So that is my synopsis there for you guys. My 3 points just to review. The ground contact time is where I would start. Are you creating excessive ground contact times? Get your phone out. Watch the athlete from the side. Watch them from the front. Watch them from the back. See if there's any rocking action. Maybe there's something that maybe they're able to keep great shin angles from the side, but you'll see maybe an pronation of the foot. Maybe you're seeing some other issues that would lead to excessive ground contact times. Number 2 is our strength of the hamstring in the eccentric phase. The foot coming to the ground is part of everyone's running cycle. There's an eccentric action in that acceleration or the max velocity, it doesn't matter. Strengthening that portion of the hamstring, the qualities and the abilities of the hamstring in that space is going to be imperative for keeping the athlete healthy and productive. And then lastly is the mobility and strength of the antagonistic muscles. And you can apply this to anything. I'm talking about the hamstring, right? So I want you guys to be nice and flexible. on the hurdle mobility. If I see athletes rounding the hurdle, going round instead of stepping over the top with some type of dominance, then I know that the hamstring is more susceptible to injury if they're not going to get flexible there. So I got to coach them a little bit differently. But as I said, you can apply this to anything. If it's your knees that are bothering you, then you got to strengthen the hamstring. If it's the calf, maybe it's a inflexibility in your anterior tibialis. It could be anything. It could apply to anything, right? I'm having excessive back pain. Maybe I just need to open up my chest more. Look on the other side of the coin to find where your issues might be. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate your time, guys. It is summertime here. Make sure you guys enjoy it. Enjoy that weather, and I will see you on the next one. God bless. Peace.